Originally, when I was first exposed to Bitcoin, I thought it was a fraud and a Ponzi scheme. I said, this just doesn't make any sense. A bunch of guys that are mining this kind of magic internet money, and we're going to say now it has a value. It just seems ridiculous to me. And then I saw Bitcoin crash, right? Bitcoin went from I saw it go from $7 to $1,200 and then crashed to 200. And I thought, okay, well, that's the end of Bitcoin then. And then something really interesting happened. You see, when something's fraudulent or it's a bubble, when it crashes, it goes to zero, right?
Bernie Madoff
went to zero. Bernie Madoff went to zero. Enron went to zero. It doesn't have any value. And then I looked at Bitcoin, and it was still worth about $3 billion. And I said, okay, I'm missing something here. So then I heard a speech given in January of 2016, and I finally understood the power of Bitcoin and the blockchain. I realized this was a way that people who didn't know each other, like each other, or trust each other could transact in a trustless way, and that we could own value that nobody else had any claim over, which is not the way the world works right now. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, if you own real estate, stocks, bonds, or gold, if the government wants to take your money, there's really nothing you can do about it. The beauty about cryptocurrency is if you keep your private key, your password safe, and don't blab it to the world that what you own, no one can take that from you.
Right.
And that's never happened before. If you're a terrorist or a GRU agent or a drug dealer and you're using Bitcoin, you're dumb.
You're dumb.
You're dumb.
That's how we caught the Russians.
Yeah, that's exactly how we
followed their Bitcoin.
We followed their Bitcoin.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's, again, and this is one of the things you're kind of going to get into with the conspiracy that is going on, if you can call it that.
I call it that, Glenn. It is. What do you call it when people are deliberately pushing down the price of an asset publicly and then going out privately and buying it?
Yeah.
That's manipulation.
Yes, it is.
It's a huge transfer of wealth that's happening right now. The last time I saw something like this was back during 1994 to 1995. In the early to mid-90s, individuals were making just enormous amounts of money buying companies like Dell, AOL, Microsoft, Netscape, and some of these smaller internet stocks. And the institutions had completely missed that bull market. And so they were scoffing at these so-called lemmings. And so during 1994 to 1995, we had a bit of a bear market. And so, again, institutions were out saying that, oh, anybody buying internet stocks, you're idiotic. And so you had a lot of people selling their AOL, selling their Microsoft, selling their Dell shares. Guess who was buying? It was the institutions. If you look at a chart of institutional allocation to venture capital internet deals, it doubled between 1994 to 1995, which was exactly when institutions were saying, oh, this is just a market for idiots. Nobody should be buying this stuff. So they literally stole all this wealth that should have been in the hands of individuals that owned Dell, Microsoft, and AOL. And then from 1995 to 2000, of course, we saw $5 trillion come into the market, and the biggest bull market we've ever seen. So this blueprint of creating fear in order to get cheap prices is nothing new. So
hang on just a second before you go on.
Yeah.
This one is really important to me because the housing crisis, those banks, they bought up all of those houses. They were the ones who caused the problem.
Right.
Then they were talking everything down and saying, I'm just taking the junk off the table. Yeah. That's not junk now.
It's not junk. When it's dropped 40 to 60%, it's not junk. So this happened between 2011, 2012. Blackstone Group buys 50,000 homes. But during this period of time, the regular individual couldn't get a mortgage, right? It was virtually impossible to get a mortgage during this time, exactly when institutions were buying. And then the dot-com crash in 2003, if you can go back and look at old CNBC clips during 2003, even as the market was starting to come up, oh, don't buy tech stocks. No, they're evil. Don't buy tech stocks. Don't buy tech stocks. But institutions, if you looked at the 10Ks, the Qs, and all of the filings, the quarterly filings, they were all loading up on tech.
This is how the rich get richer.
Yes.
They know, they're connected. A lot of times they're coordinating without the insider trading. This is not illegal to do.
No, manipulating the news cycle, if you're smart about it, is they can get away with it. Nobody's ever been arrested for anything like this.
So now, with crypto, I know personally, I know people that would have gotten in or stayed in if these people weren't saying what they're saying.
Right, and so this has really been extremely egregious. So on September 12th, Jamie Dimon says Bitcoin is a fraud. He says he'll fire any one of his traders buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin drops 24%. When Jamie Dimon speaks,
people listen.
People listen. So that weekend, we found out that the largest buyer of a Bitcoin fund that's in Europe that buys physical Bitcoin, right? The largest buyer was Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. And that's not illegal.
He says it's a fraud.
It says he'll fire anyone that buys it. Yes.
And at the same time, his company is buying it.
His company is buying it.
So it's just, I mean, so unethical.
Right.
Okay, George Soros.
George Soros, in January 24th, price was already down, calls Bitcoin a bubble, says Bitcoin is the worst, the worst investment in the world. Don't buy Bitcoin. Don't buy Bitcoin. Basically throws gasoline on the fire at this point. And then what do we find out? So he says bubble here.
It drops 44%.
Right. And then here in April, 2 months later, guess what we find out? His $26 billion family office has approval to buy cryptocurrency.
Right. And we only knew about it publicly here. Okay.
So then here now, Goldman Sachs, this, again, February 7th, most cryptocurrencies will crash to zero. Now, I remember when they said this in February, and I had, through my network, I knew that Goldman Sachs was setting up a crypto trading desk. Absolutely knew they were setting up a crypto trading desk.
And I remember you telling me that.
Right. And then, of course, they were denying it. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. Price falls down 27%. And then what do we find out? We find out here, they say BTC 0. And then we find out just before May, new trading desk. Not only that, they put $400 million to buy a cryptocurrency trading platform. Okay, so February 7th, it's all going to zero. May, we just spent $400 million just on a flyer.
And they're not the only ones.
No. So you have a lot of institutions that are coming. You had Christine Lagarde from the IMF come out. And this was, what's funny about this, Glenn, is it was all around the same time. It was almost like I can't prove collusion, but, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck.
And you know what?
It's probably a duck.
The people, they all hang out together, they all think alike. It doesn't have to be calling each other. They know this game.
Yes. So IMF, Christine Lagarde says in the first part of the year, says all central banks should band together against cryptocurrency.
What this did was play into people's heads that these guys are never going to let Bitcoin survive.
Right.
And so people thought, this is over.
Selling.
So let me show you, can we show a chart of the 5 crashes? This is from, I think...
Last year, right?
Last year, okay? Do we have that chart of the 5 crashes of Bitcoin?
Right. It was 30%. Right, I think 4 of them were 30% and 1 was 40%.
And this is, here it is. This is 1 year.
That's just last year, yes. That's
Explain this.
So I had recommended Bitcoin back here, and in 2017, we just saw this massive volatility. And you got to remember, if you don't see that, you see this big move down, and you're freaking out. So every time this happens, most people...
a 40% crash is scary.
That's what happened in July. So this is one of the reasons why I say that Bitcoin is not a bubble, because if you look since 2011, we've had 4 major moves, from lows to high, from lows to high. And even if you bought at the high of each move, you have still made money.
Right.
And that can't happen in a bubble.
No.
That can't happen in a fraudulent asset class. Rather than listening to what people are saying, look at what they are doing.
Correct.
So this is what we should look at, and this is what I want people to focus on now. Billionaire hedge fund manager Stephen Cohen, who's worth between $12 to $14 billion, by far the smartest hedge fund manager in the world, I would say of the last century. is buying BitCoin. $6,800 buying BitCoin. Mark Lazary, Avenue Capital Group, worth about $1.7 billion, has put 1% of his net worth into Bitcoin at around this price, $7,500. Andreessen Horowitz.
Mark Andreessen.
That's right, Mark Andreessen. An early investor in Airbnb, Skype, Facebook, just launched and Coinbase, just launched a $300 million fund. Wellington Capital, they have $1 trillion in assets, are starting to get involved in Bitcoin futures. Susquehanna, the 12th largest trading firm by volume, they now have their own Bitcoin custody department, their own trading department, and they're trading Bitcoin and Ethereum. Goldman Sachs, this new CEO, David Solomon, the most pro-Bitcoin / cryptocurrency guy on Wall Street. The most pro
Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs. He's the new CEO. He's coming into power shortly. BlackRock, this announcement just came out, the world's biggest asset manager. Now, last year, Larry Fink says, oh, you know what cryptocurrency and Bitcoin's good for? Money laundering and drug dealers. Right? So again, if you look at what he's saying, you're going to sell your Bitcoin, right? You're going to say, oh, this is all BS. But guess what is happening now? They're going to launch an ETF. They're looking at an exchange-traded fund that will allow anybody with a brokerage firm to make it as easy as hitting a buy button to go out and buy Bitcoin. So you've got to look at this preponderance of evidence, right? All these people are already wealthy. All these people care about their reputation. If Bitcoin is such a trashy asset, why are all these people getting involved?
What you're saying is they've played their card. They've driven the market down. These kinds of early text we'll show you here in a minute. It's very volatile. But then at the bottom, they say, don't go in. It's going to crash. It's going to be worse. They all start buying. You're saying now is the time to get in.
Now is the time to buy.
Because they're coming.
Yes.
And once they come,
you will see this market absolutely explode to the